Hey you guys, welcome to training. Today we're going to talk about following a sale all the way through, how to make sure you have the right documents, everything's put into the loop, submitted for review. Most of this you know, some of you folks are new and you don't know, so that's why we're covering it today. So there's going to be two things I want you to pay attention to when you're looking at the process of a file. First, the checklist, the file checklist, it appears in every loop template. So if you have a listing and you go into Dotloop and start a listing, MFR listing before 1978, MFR listing after 1978, new construction, okay? The file checklist is on every loop. Same thing with sales, any kind of a FHA, VA, whatever your sales contract is, okay? And then the other thing, it's just printed, but it's on your loop. It's the tasks. It's my crude notes here. But you're going to look at the tasks that are already built into Dotloop for your benefit, okay? So we're going to start as you being the buying agent, okay? You have the buyer. Somebody else has the listing. You bring the buyer, all right? So on the file checklist, in this example, you're not going to do the top half because we know that's for the listing portion, all right? So we're going to come into the file checklist where it says pending, okay? And then all of these things are the documents that I want you to have, that you need to have, and some of them the Real Estate Commission requires, okay? So on the checklist, it says cross sale with, all right. I don't particularly need to know that individual's name, but I sure hope you do. So sometimes on the contracts at the bottom, you know, on page 6, sometimes they put in their name and their license number. Sometimes they just put in their license number, and then their email doesn't have their name. So it's hard to know sometimes who the other agent is. So I want you to just be aware, if you're completing this sheet, then you can write it in there. MLS printouts showing pending. So after the listing agent goes into the MLS and marks it pending, I want you to keep a copy of that. It can be digital, and then you upload it to the loop. You can print it, whatever your preference is, but it's got to be in the loop. Because anytime you take a snapshot in time of the MLS sheet, okay, when it's active, you want to do that. When you're submitting it to your buyer, you want to make sure he understands, you know, what's being put out there about the property that he claims he wants to buy. So that's when it's active. Then when it goes pending, you want to be able to make sure nothing changed, okay? People make mistakes, listing agents make mistakes, and perhaps after you've presented this property for sale to your buyer, something on that MLS sheet changes. So you need to have a snapshot in time of what your buyer is agreeing to. So I'm backing up a little bit. You're going to get a copy of the MLS sheet active whenever you submit all the paperwork to your buyer to sign. And then once you get it under contract, you're going to capture a picture of it pending. Okay, does that make sense? Then you're going to get a copy of the earnest money check and the receipt to wherever it goes. Metro First Realty Unlimited doesn't hold its own earnest money. We do have a trust account in case that ever happens inadvertently, but as a rule, we do not hold our own earnest money. If you have the buyer, have your buyer write his earnest money check to the title company that you and or your buyer chooses, okay? Then you have to deliver that earnest money to them. So as soon as that happens, get a copy of it. Sometimes it's mailed via snail mail. So it's going to take a day or two, and you're not going to be right there to get a copy of it. But then you follow up with that escrow officer and get some type of verification that they do have the earnest money in the buyer's name for the property that your buyer wants, all right? Now, we're kind of going down the checklist, but I also want you to coordinate this with the tasks that you'll find in Dotloop. There's not an official document that has the tasks on it, so that's why my list is kind of janky, because I just hit print screen, and maybe that's what you'll want to do to see them all, you know, in front of you, is print the task list. Fully executed contract into the loop, okay? After you've put it in, you know, for your buyer's signature and you've sent it to them, and then you get it back signed. Okay, that's the fully executed part. Maybe you did it and they hand signed it in person. Okay, then you have to upload it and then it's in Dotloop. Okay, so the task list is a reminder of all the things you want to do. Fully executed contract into the loop. Load all required addenda. Okay, there's going to be a financing page unless it's cash. And then any other things. Many other agencies have square foot acknowledgement addendums, school district acknowledgement addendums. We don't have that. If you like to use that, I'm not opposed to it, but it is not an agency requirement. Executed seller's disclosure signed by both parties, because we are real estate licensees in the state of Oklahoma. When we participate in a transaction, that disclosure statement or disclaimer has to be part of the transaction. So you need the executed, okay, so the seller has filled it out when he